Hi
And
everyone, my name's AJ Pickett. I make YouTube videos about monsters and aliens.
very good. And what about Mark from Dungeon Class in the middle?
Yeah, I'm Mark from Dungeon Class, and I make videos about having more fun with your family and friends and how to make that happen. And we're all about fun and how the heck with rules and stuff like that. So.
Nice. Nice. In the orange square, we've got the OKS DM.
Hi, I'm Dennis, and I make mistakes running RPGs so you don't have to.
And I am Wally DM. I have a YouTube channel that's focused on puzzles and traps for those of you that aren't here or not subscribed. Make sure you hit the like button, everyone. And then I'm going to turn it over to Fred from How to RPG.
Hi, I'm Fred from How to RPG or role-playing games, nothing to do with launching grenades or anything like that, and I do everything for players and game masters. And I wrangle these people, so I convince these people to come for nothing. They just showed up. So yeah, I don't even pay them in peanuts. So that's part of the deal for today. So what we're going to do, is we're going to talk about some monsters. We've got four. Wally has already mentioned which ones we're going to discuss. I imagine that he's right now fiddling around trying to figure out which image is going to be presented first. More than likely, okay, think Centaur, dude. It's no, I'm only kidding. Cyclops. You knew the order. So my question to everybody today is the following: how to use a Cyclops in a fun and interesting way in your role-playing game, Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons, Tunnels and Trolls, mazes and monsters. Maybe not that one, but like, how would you go about using the the thing that has one eye? And we're going to go straight to AJ because he probably knows more about this than anybody. So AJ.
Well, so Cyclops, properly pronounced in Greek, Kyklopis. They were the children of Kronos and the Titans, basically. So they were the pre-existing generation of Greek gods, servants and children, and they were kind of involved in the conflict between the Titans and the new gods of Olympus taking over, and they kind of helped out Zeus. And Zeus's thunderbolt was most famously created by the Cyclops for him. So they basically got left alone by the new Greek gods. So there were these monstrous, huge, single-eyed humanoids, good at crafting and all that sort of stuff. They have their own culture and civilization. They're not just one lone Cyclops on an island somewhere. But the general idea was you just leave them alone because they've done their work. They've done their good deeds for the current gods, and the mortals should just leave them be. So every interaction you have with the Cyclops was kind of like, where were the gods' involvement in this? It's like, hands off. If you get involved with them, it's your own fault. Now, I like the Cyclops in Dungeons and Dragons because they're very hard to change what they are. They're a single-eyed giant humanoid, and I like the idea that they can either live in remote locations and have their own culture and society, which is completely divorced from anything else. They're ancient. They could have previous lost civilizations of giant ruins of impressive size, but they're not connected to the giants of any other sort of giant thing because they're their own species that are not connected that way. And they're also grumpy and angry that people come and bother them, and that their ancient history was a litany of things that have gone wrong, and they've been abused and used, and they've done their part and never been rewarded and that sort of thing. So they've got a big chip on their shoulder. The other thing I really like is attaching legends to why they don't have one eye, kind of like with the Grumsh thing, or if you've ever watched the movie Krull, it's a perfect example of there's a Cyclops called Grell who explains that their eye was taken away from them for the gift to see the future, but all they can see is the future of their own death. So yeah, I really like that mythology aspect to them, and I quite encourage you to check out the actual Greek origin of their story, because it will inform your games a lot better than Dungeons and Dragons lore does.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, if you look at the history of the Cyclops, there's probably three stories that sort of stand out, right? One that sort of suggests it's very primitive, and that's Homer's Odyssey. And then there's the creation, as you mentioned, of the Greek gods' weapons. And then The construction of, I can't remember which city or wall it is, but there's a special wall that's sort of under, like literally
Generally lots of big
indestructible.
walls, yeah.
Yes, there were quite a few. It was like, if you wanted anything made that was going to stand up, like a castle wall or a city wall, you got a Cyclops involved.
They're almost like the dwarves of the Greek mythology.
Yeah, just for much larger things.
Yeah.
Mark, would you like to give us some ideas here?
Yeah, so like I said, on our channel, we're all about the fun. So I like to think of very unusual ways to use monsters. We typically see them as an adversary, and obviously my groups usually turn into murder hobos. They just kill something that's different than you, which is a terrible, terrible way to be. So I like to mix it up a little bit and bring in some unusual NPC. So I would like to use. I have an idea for a Cyclops that. He's gone a little bit different. He's gone off into the actually where people are at, but he's become a farmer. He sees a need because he's always hungry. One of the things is that it's hard to find something for a growing orc or a Cyclops to feed that stomach. So everything they eat is so small; it just takes a lot of it. So he's kind of a little entrepreneur because he's got this idea where he grows vegetables and livestock that are bigger than anything that humans have. He's got some help to be able to grow, like say, livestock that's bigger than normal and these vegetables. But he's doing it. He's selling these things. He's interacting with. He's selling to bigger people, bigger animals, other races that want big food. He's got this thing going. The other thing I like is because he's hanging around around people, he's starting to get a little self-conscious about having only one eye, and he's noticing that a lot of humanoids have two. So he convinced a tinkerer to make him a nice little extra eye that it has this thing in the front and it kind of goes off to the side. Now, in his mind, he can see he's got two eyes, but in reality, it's literally just it's like a periscope, but only seeing out this side. So he's still a little not that bright, but he still thinks oh, look, I'm seeing like everybody else, and I look like everyone. But you've definitely noticed it right away. So that's an idea I have for using the Cyclops in a little bit unusual way.
So I feel like this is the perfect product for them is the wraparound sunglasses.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
because
yeah.
you just don't worry about the bits where the at the top of the changeover from the nose, or brow, or whatever.
Right.
You just go straight across, and it looks like could have two eyes, could have one eye.
He might not. He's very self-conscious. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Nice. Yeah.
Dennis, what have you got for us, Cyclops?
So the first thing I thought of when I read the question was what makes a Cyclops unique among all other monsters? And the answer is obvious. It's the single eye. So I tried to think of something cool that would have to do with that, like that was specific to a Cyclops, not, giants in general. And I started brainstorming. The Cyclops that wants two eyes definitely came to mind, but Mark stole that one already. You could have a Cyclops that has bad vision. So they are on a quest to collect monocles that are big enough for them to use. And then when it breaks, they have to go on another quest, which is quite often because it's a very large piece of glass. The one I liked the best, though, was when I thought of a Cyclops, I started thinking of the old Disney Hercules movie and the Cyclops that appears in that one. And I didn't like him. He was just a brute that got sent away and was kind of boring as an enemy. What I did like, there are other one-eyed creatures in that movie, and those are the oracles that share a single eye between them. So what if those three old ladies, all with one eye socket, were giant? So you have a coven of Cyclops, all oracles that use their one single eye shared between them to tell visions and cast powerful spells.
That's excellent.
They were bad enough as it was, and you've made them larger. Well done.
I like that.
It's a good idea.
It would certainly explain why you don't like beat the ideas out of them or the answers, because they're just too physically intimidating.
Yep, exactly.
Can't do it. Of course, now, has your cat got some ideas to share with us, AJ? Otherwise, we're going to move over to Wally.
She said that the Cyclops need to farm more mice.
Okay, sure. Wally, moving on.
I'm going to take one of the ideas that the OKSDM felt that they could get rid of on that. So the one where the not very good vision, and that's where I wanted to focus my attention on. So I'm going to go into the Cyclops with a very long idea for a campaign or a reoccurring NPC, and I haven't named my Cyclops yet. So anyone in the chat that wants to name my Cyclops, you're more than welcome to do so. But the adventurers are going to find the Cyclops, and he's been exiled. He's no longer part of the Cyclops Club, or I'm not even going to pretend to know what lore and what they all do together and stuff like that. I'm just focusing on the one eye. That's how I'm going to do my fun with Cyclops here. But they're going to come across it, and this is a really cool Cyclops, very nice and everything. But he can't hit anything. He's got his great club, and he can't hit crap. And then after maybe a little bit of time working with them and things of that nature, the party will find out he's nearsighted. He can't see anything. So now we're going to have to find an ophthalmologist. I did look that word up. I'm pretty sure I'm using that correctly. An ophthalmologist that's going to be able to give him an eye exam and give him this big. And then it's just like, when I was thinking of this, it's like, what is it? It's not glasses, because glasses is 2 lenses. And I think Dennis hit it. It's a monocle, because otherwise it'd be a glass. So instead of glasses, he's getting glass. That didn't make as much sense. So we'll go with the monocle. But then he's going to get fitted with this monocle, and he's going to tear stuff up. So now they've got this great ally in a Cyclops. But of course, being an NPC as a DM, I'm going to take that resource away. And then a long time down the road, they're going to meet him again. But now he's like the leader. He went back to the Cyclops Club or whatever the lore is that they all do together. And now he's leading that. And not only that, but now he's become kind of a tyrant. And he's going to be like, oh yeah, there's my buddies, whatever else. I'm like, hey dude, you're doing stuff you shouldn't be, we're getting a lot of complaints about you and things like that. And he's like, yeah, I don't really care. And he's still got his monocle or his glass, but now he's upgraded it, because I did listen to one of AJ's videos about they're a little bit smitten with beholders and stuff. So he like took the idea of the beholders, just like, I want my monocle to be able to do some cool stuff. So you know how you have like you can have prescription glasses that are tinted, or you can put like stuff over them to like change them, colors and stuff like that. He's going all out. In fact, he'll probably even have like some contact lenses too. So like if you needed to pop out a different color or something like that. But this is going to be able to change the lens on the monocle, so he can have like an anti-magic cone. He can do like slowing spheres, all of that stuff. And all he's got to do is just like flip through the little lenses on his monocle. Did I take enough time?
Could it be even more horrific, so that if his eye magically regenerates, and so if he needs another eye, he just rips it out and a new chaotic new eye forms that does something different?
I like that. That's good. But that's my idea.
That's horrifying.
But that's my idea, and that's why I went last.
Well, you didn't go last because I'm going last.
I'm
going to add to your idea very quickly, and that is one of those lenses needs to be a kaleidoscope. You know those old kaleidoscopes, during the 60s that, very psychedelic.
Oh, like that scene with the Predator, and it's trying to figure out what's going on in the meat warehouse, and it's flicking through its different spectra, and then it spots them. Aha! It's like, ooh, clever.
And then, of course, there's one that you flip that will be hippie or 60s.
Nice.
Going to 60s mode. Toof. So
very good.
My idea is what's left over. Basically, on my list here, I'm going to suggest a optometrist, a Cyclops optometrist that assists people with eye injuries, providing corrective lenses. Yes, I have literally taken a very simple idea from Real World and decided to plaster it over a Cyclops. Frankly, I couldn't think of anything else, since everything else has sort of been spoken about. And there is one more, but I'm not going to regurgitate it, because I'm going to open up the discussion to everybody. So that means mics are no longer muted. Fire it away, and we'll throw things together.
I was thinking that the idea from mythology that they're an older generation of giant people before a new general, like if you're going with, say, Forgotten Realms or more traditional D&D settings, they could be a pre-existing native giant species. Whereas, if particularly in the Forgotten Realms, the giants are extraterrestrial kind of an origin, animals of a god that sort of came in from nowhere and then generated the Astorian Empire and all that sort of stuff. So if you go up to a cloud kingdom of a cloud giant, and there's the pens with all of the harpies and rocks and various other giant creatures that they bred during the war with the dragons, for instance, the Cyclops could be the one that's like, that's where the giant space hamsters come from, because they've been breeding mice to be larger and larger, and it's like, oh, I've got this next thing, and it's like, oh, try this giant tomato that I've created. And it's like, oh wow, they're agrarian, cultural, they're the workers and people that do all the stuff, and the peasants of the giant kingdom, but they're much older.
Like that.
So the isn't there is a lot of mythology and folklore and story behind the fact that Cyclops, some of the Cyclops actually were breeding with the gods, or some of the more titanic or primal entities in the world, particularly in Greek mythology. I'm pretty sure there are a few.
Very much so. They were very much about the lineage of things. And you get that with a lot of Polynesian culture too. Everything is connected through kaupapa, through family. So it's a lineage. And one of the things with ancient religions is anybody who invades new territory takes on the existing gods of the people they conquered, and they become the older generation of gods. So when the Greeks invaded the Greek islands, there was a pre-existing culture that had the Titans. And if the people that invaded the British Isles, there was a pre-existing culture, which was the Fomorians. So, you can look at those sort of examples and even introduce those with whole new pantheons that have got pre-existing pantheons, and that explains the ruins of previous existing people. So maybe the Netherese gods are worshipped by the people in the Anarok Desert as the pre-generators of their new gods. So you can introduce that as a cultural element.
Yeah. I was just going to say whatever happens on Mount Olympus stays on Mount Olympus, but I like that answer too.
Well, it begs the question, because I mean, when you look at sort of questions around how old does a Cyclops live for, and if you look at the mythology that is there outside of Dungeons and Donuts, I mean Dungeons and Dragons, what you soon find is there's real no indication. It could be centuries. It could be even longer than that. They sort of
shorter.
Or shorter, yeah, depending on how things are going. Particularly if you've got a bunch of sheep in a cave, right, and some arse-holish sailors show up, decide to steal your food, and then poke your eye out, then yeah, you don't live long.
Hang that, Ulysses.
I do want to so chat's on fire tonight. There's some really good stuff in there. I just want to point out a few. Nacho Man says, can a Cyclops be cross-eyed? And who was it here? Yeah, Mr. L comes back with could have two irises that look at each other. So you could have like the one eye with two irises. So yeah, I guess a Cyclops. That was pretty good. Josiah Dungeon Dad said, mom said it's my turn with the eye. I think that goes back to the one whoever was talking about sharing that eye and stuff like that. I love that idea as well. Also, looks like we have a few names for my Cyclops, which I appreciate. We've got Jolly and Biff. It looks like maybe a couple good names there. Peeper's a good one. Agile Monk says we can have a telescope for the glasses. I like that as well. So, way to go, chat. This is good. I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So there's one other thing we have to mention, because as we know, Marvel rules all film, and it's so my last idea for you is a Cyclops that wears battle armor, full plate battle armor, has a visor, and shoots a heat ray from his single eye when he takes it off.
Oh,
I don't know where I got that idea from.
Oh, that's really original, man.
Gort from The Day the Earth Stood Still?
It is actually. Yes. Yeah, it's Gort. Is the robot's name Gort? I think it's Gort. Yeah,
Yep.
It's Gort. So for those of you who have thought, that's Cyclops from the X-Men, actually it's Gort from the day the Earth stood still. And of course, AJ knows the reference. Nicely done. Anybody else wanted to add anything?
We were talking about the history of the race, starting out with AJ, and I was starting to think of what if the race history was different. And then someone mentioned the Formians or the Fomorians, which also are a race that exists in Dungeons and Donuts. And they are giants that have like a messed up history. Like they're a race that got, classic, like almost all the other Underdark races, like had some, used to be this beautiful thing until they went down into the basement, What if the Cyclops used to have two eyes? Sort of like the Kenku used to have their own voice, or the Formians used to be this beautiful race of giants. That could lead to some pretty, I don't know, I'd have fun writing that world building, figuring out who stole an eye from an entire race of giants and why.
That's really cool.
It's a really good idea. And actually, as AJ was pointing out, it's been looked at in a movie that was put out a long time ago called Krull. And yes, it's not an A grade movie. I would say it's more of a B grade movie at this point. And
King of the B grade movies.
But
Robbie Coltrane, Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
They became famous. They were a big deal. So yeah.
What's the alignment of a Cyclops? Or...
Whatever the heck you want.
It's not two alignments. It's just one.
Chaotic,
because
neutral.
It's got one eye, so it's just lawful or chaotic, nothing else.
And with that inflection too, it's lawful, and that's it.
I don't know. Something that you said there, Dennis, had me thinking as far as, well, what if there was like an evil Cyclops that was jealous of everyone with two eyes, and just like that was the only thing it did was went around. I mean, this is not fun and interesting things with monsters. This is just pretty grotesque,
horrifying
dungeoneering. Yeah, it's a horrifying
poke
thing.
out the eye of every single creature that with two it comes across.
Yeah, and maybe even like other giants. It's just like it's going after other giants because just like, well, I only have one.
Cluster of eyes and only one is open at a time.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I brought that up or why I'm talking about it. So. We can move on from there. That was just something weird that popped in my head, and I didn't realize that I was unmuted. So my apologies.
Well, I would like you, Wally, leave that mute button alone.
Okay.
you obviously don't have control of it.
I'm going back.
Leave the
I'm
mute
going
button
back.
alone. Yeah, don't keep unmuting and unmuting yourself. It's not working. Okay, nobody's going to see or hear anything. Eventually, we'll wind up with losing the cameras as well. So, look, hey, thank you for everybody who presented their ideas. It was great. So, if you are rewatching this, or even if you're not rewatching this and you're watching it now, let us know down in the comments how you would go about using the Cyclops any way you like. Just share those ideas with us because I would be interested. Do we need to say thank you to anybody in the chat before I move on, baby?
I think we're good. Thanks, chat. We're going to do another monster. Let's get ready to roll.
Okay. So since we started with C, we'll continue with C. So how would you go about using a centaur or centaurs in an interesting and fun way in your role-playing games, your Dungeons and Dragons, your Pathfinder, your Tunnels and Trolls, your Catacombs and Creatures, whatever the heck it is you're playing? You let me know. And AJ, we're going to start with you because I'm not going to be clever and change the order. I'm just not that creative today.
Dishonest dyslexics. So centaurs, they are the children of Hera, believe it or not, according to Greek mythology once again. And they were made of Hera's cloud essence and some magnesian mares or magnesian. I'm not sure what. I haven't read a lot about their mythology, unfortunately. But they were used as they had conflicts with horse tamers, so they were hunted and used as like animals. But they were a civilization as well, intelligent beings, and they were also one of the team that would pull the chariot of like the gods and things. But they're all their own people, and particularly in fantasy role-playing games, they're a primitive, large, powerful people that occupy plains and things like that, and forests and things, and quite often associated with the Fae. But I've never really associated with them with the Fae. I just thought of them as a fringe culture, a people that have naturalized themselves to whatever world they show up on, and interacting with them is always fraught with danger because they're a very vigorous and powerful species. So their hunting bows have arrows that are like spears and things like that, and with the ability to I've always kind of famously made a picture of Cyclops, a Centaur climbing a rope, showing that they can actually physically do it, and that they're much more flexible with a flexible spine that allows them to sort of curl up like a musculid and things like that. So they can actually clip their back toenails and braid their tails and things like that. They're not really penalized by their physical form at all. They've got 6 limbs, much like dragons do. So you could have some sort of a thing going on there. But for me, it's always you interact with them like a raiding Apache band or something like that. Like, they're not really interested in your culture, and if you interact with theirs, it's be prepared for a wild ride, because they like to drink, they like to party, they're very open and honest, and they've also got very strict social laws in regards to things, and they don't appreciate anybody telling them how to live their lives. So they're all about live free, and it's all about the tribe and stuff like that, and they're very heroic and powerful people.
Yeah. So I'm aware of all of this because AJ said he knows very little about centaurs, but I'm pretty sure the video I watched on his channel was 44 minutes long. So if that's not very much, I don't know what is. I mean, you don't know anything unless the video is 60 minutes long. I mean, so
just that I didn't cover a lot of the mythological origins, but I'm going to change the era of my ways.
Yeah, so I think the answer to that, people, if you're wondering about AJ and what the heck's going on, mythical monsters and folklore monsters are up fair game. If they haven't been done, or they've been done, they're probably coming back. Hey, thank you for that, AJ. Hey,
and most interestingly, one of the things that is not owned by anybody, because you can't own a mythological creature copyright-wise, so you can do whatever you want with them.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what we're doing right now, actually.
Yeah.
Mark, what would you like to say about the Centaur?
So I like to turn things on the dime. You know, I like where they rebel against the norm. So, you know, usually centaurs come across as wild and aggressive, but there's also a pride element that they have. You know, so naturally, I feel like a diplomat. You know, that would be, you know, they have that haughty kind of feel to them, but they also know what it's like to kind of be outcasts, and so they actually make a good diplomat. So your NPC they encounter is this centaur that has become and part of another, could be completely any other race. Actually, it doesn't have to be centaurs. That it's become like a diplomat for that race, even, or another race, but they're really good at mediating because they know kind of what it's like to be at least perceived from 2 different races, a conglomeration of it. So they're almost like the icon of diplomacy, just the way that their visual look to them. So I think that'd be an unusual way to use them. Again, as I said, my group is all murder hobos. So anytime I can take something they're going to be more apt to kill and make it something, oh, look at this. Honestly, my thing about NPCs is there's only so many. You know, it's so easy to fall in that trap of you go into the blacksmith and there's a dwarf there, and you go into another shop and there's a small elf and there's a goblin, or, you know, there seems to be certain kind of things you're used to. So I like to mix it up a little bit. So you have NPCs that are like, oh, I'm not expecting that. So, but I think that'd be a fun way to use Centaur.
So that's kind of like an extension of Chiron from mythology, because he was sort of the more the knowledgeable, more wise, and he did all the training for Hercules and Achilles and so forth, right?
A healer, a herbalist.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe you've got someone like that who sort of extended themselves a bit further. A leader of their own species or other species or races, maybe something like that.
Yep.
Cool. So Dennis, Centaur, looks like a horse, doesn't look like a horse. What have you got?
Well, you already mentioned actually pretty much most of the stuff that I had, because Chiron is really the only centaur that I know of, like by name. You know, he's the one that trained Hercules, one that trained Achilles. And the other thing he's famous for is that he is a constellation. Not all the Greek characters got to be placed in the stars, but he's one of them. And so I took all the things I knew about him. He's a healer. He knows knowledge. He's a teacher. And applied that to all the centaurs, and like started thinking about what would a society be like if all centaurs were inclined towards knowledge and healing and teaching. And I came up with a society of centaur wizards or arcanists, sorcerers. And the one bug that I kept coming up with while I was thinking about this is they don't have the same bodies as everyone else. They're mostly horse. So they wouldn't build buildings like, humanoids and bipedals would. They would probably have only, like, their cities would sprawl out. They wouldn't ever go up. They would all only have one floor because, unless I'm very incorrect, I don't think horses do well on stairs. So they're like, you could start making this whole culture that values knowledge, and instead of building towers, they build huge campuses, and they could even be one of the main races among humans and elves and dwarves in your world.
Come to think of it, I do actually house them in mazes, like cliffside dwellings and things like that for shelter, but they never really enclose themselves. It's always valleys, and particularly spiraling valleys with lots of skipped gardens and things like that. So when they're walking along at their head height, they're just grabbing fruit and berries and things like that. But it's always out of sight and out of reach from the little people.
When I was a kid, I always wanted a garden where I could do that, like walk through and grab all the edible stuff. So I could see like people that can actually reach that stuff normally would definitely go that route.
Plus, they'd be eating all the time.
Didn't you say? I remember you saying, don't they have two hearts that operate in their bodies?
I saw a discussion once where a bunch of actual medical doctors were talking about the physiology of a potential centaur. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. They took it really seriously.
Well, I like that sort of thing. So two hearts, you could have got a lot more food to push into that body. Yeah,
I mean, stegosaurs had a secondary brain, so
I didn't know that one. We'll have to come back to dinosaurs someday. I even had thought about talking about dinosaurs that much, but don't worry, can't copyright that one.
Nope.
I'm now that we're on track and we're talking about centaurs, I'm just going to make a big call out now to ensure that the centaur population get enough to eat. I think councils and governments need to start planting fruit trees that feed the population, the centaurs and people. So that they don't have to go to the vegetable shop or the supermarket and spend half their money on vegetables and fruit because they're so expensive. That would be a good thing, wouldn't it? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I sidetracked there. When you started talking about parks, I was like, yeah, stick the fruit trees.
Interesting point though, because particularly in fantasy worlds, a lot of ancient species, it's like, well, the humans didn't develop agriculture and stuff themselves. They had examples of previous people who did it for them. So that's a major difference in the history of a culture.
Yeah. Wally, it's a centaur.
Yeah.
What can you do with a centaur?
Before I go into mine, I was just like picturing all of that, like a centaur civilization and stuff. How do they turn around? I mean, how big do their hallways got to be? Because I'm thinking of a normal hallway where I can just like turn around, but a centaur would be like, oh yeah, we need to make this a little bit wider, because you think about it, they can't really just turn around. So it's like the hallways are going to, never mind. So I watched AJ's video and a lot of that sounded exactly what I remember listening to today. But I didn't go with any of that. In fact, I'm starting a brand new company called Centaur Kings, which is very similar to DraftKings that's here in the United States. Because my centaurs are going to live out in the woods, but it's going to be a forest city of sports betting. All of the centaurs are going to be excited about sports. I mean, not just on Sunday afternoons when their team plays for 3 hours. I mean, it's going to be like every day of the week or 10 day or whatever it is. And of course, the athletes that are the Centaurs are going to get so much attention. And so some of the sports that we're going to play, I mean, all you have to do is think of the different things that we use horses for in the real world. So we can have polo. So a lot of the, it's probably going to be more the nobles that are going to be playing polo. Like, oh yeah, so I'm going to, hit the ball. So you're going to have those centaurs out. Not a lot of people go and watch polo in Centaur world. I mean, they can if they want. It's usually in the morning after brunch, but after they pick off those fruits and stuff that Fred had hanging for him there on the trees. So there's going to be polo. There's going to be horse racing, of course. Who's the fastest centaur? That starts when they're like little centaur kids, whatever that's the equivalent of. But they'll do that in their school grounds and stuff. Running around the school, stuff like that. So and the ones that aren't racing, I mean, there's going to be like a lot of betting going on. So maybe if you have an adventuring party stumble across here, they can like, oh, cool. We can play some bets, stuff like that. Let's see. Of course, there's going to be archery. Somebody already mentioned, like a Sagittarius, with the arrows and things like that. So I think archery would be important. And then, of course, the most barbaric and the most strongest, and your barbarians of all the centaurs have got to be your jousters. Because you're going to go through, you're going to joust, but good night, do not miss. Hit the shield. That one could get messy. So so my fun with monsters with centaurs is you're going to stumble across centaur kings, and it's going to be just this big sports gambling athlete world. That's all I got.
Well, it's interesting you were going down that route, because I was thinking, this is one of the things I'd written down, and I said written down here, Centaur Professional Grand Prix Racing, Formula One. Okay, this is not centaurs being ridden by somebody else. It's just the centaurs. Okay, if you're not a centaur, you're not invited. But you've got the professionals who race. So that can fit into that world pretty easily. I think that will work quite nicely.
I'm just picturing a centaur playing professional baseball. Man, they would be good.
That would be good. Dungeons and Chronicles says, does centaurs let people ride them, or is that offensive to them? In my world, they wouldn't let people ride them, but not in Centaur Kings. That doesn't happen. But I'll turn that question over to somebody that knows a little bit more about them. But I would say no.
Particularly if there's no horses on the world, it may be less offensive to a centaur. But if there are horses on the world and they see how other humanoids treat the horses, they may find it highly offensive.
Yeah. I'm always of the belief that centaurs are all for it. Yeah, you can ride me as long as we're traveling along the edge of a ravine at the top near a cliff face, where suddenly, if there's a little bit of a you're gone. It starts off with yes, followed by probably not a good idea, because you followed by fall and die.
Also, griffins are well known for hunting horses, and also boulets are well known for hunting horses. So a centaur is going to attract them just like any other horse would. They don't tell the difference between a humanoid top bit and just a head.
Yeah, exactly.
What if two centaurs like work together? Like they had to be at work at the same time. It was like, or a centaur and a humanoid, and they had to be at work at the same time. And maybe like in exchange for, hey, the centaur told them like, hey, if you sweep the floors, I'll give you a ride to work or something like that.
Yeah, you get the stuff off the bottom shelf. I'll get the stuff up the top shelf. Buddy. Yeah.
Cool. I like it.
Well, and Wally's got me thinking that they would famously not have a lot of knickknacks around the living area because your turning around problem. You probably what I don't know what the equivalent is in bull in a china shop, but centaur in a vase, a masonry place. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out. I can't imagine they would have a lot of knick-knack kind of things.
I remember in the Dark Crystal movie how the old ones, the old masters, had a very looping, sort of ramped, spiraling civilization built up around that valley, and I really thought that would be perfect for centaurs. They would have that nice.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you would you'd have to have ramps. It's not wheelchair access; it's centaur access.
But they can climb ropes.
Yeah, they probably can, hand over hand. Yeah, Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
They lock
blimey.
Great
their
arm
feet.
strength.
Can they
Yeah.
lock their? Can they do that? I'm just trying to.
I assure you,
AJ,
I assure you,
AJ says
can.
they can. Yeah,
They
he's seen
can.
it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I had an idea in my brain, and suddenly the only thing in my brain that remains is a length of rope hanging from somewhere and a centaur shuffling up and down it like one of those army or navy troopers training, and it's the image in your mind. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but
Yeah.
it's
Also, bear in mind, centaurs are not just centaurs. Centauroid is a body type that covers a lot of different species, like Barrior, as somebody mentioned before, one of my favorite extraplanar species that native to the Yizgard. And they are famously good physical specimens at fighting evil wherever they find it.
yeah.
And they drink like fish.
Well, actually, that was something, now that you've mentioned this, since my list here was very short and then it got a lot longer. I don't know why. But you said drinking. And I thought, you know how you have that in your adventures, sometimes you have like that vagabond, that drunk, that alcoholic. It's got to be a centaur. Because they don't really deal well with the alcohol. It's the fire water hurts them, you know. It's that vagabond. It's got the pail there waiting for the tips and coins. And
I mean, you've got a lot of grains hanging around. That's bound to brewing is bound to be a big part of their culture.
yeah. So and there's like a big, huge bottle of alcohol that's empty that they want to get another one because they've run out, and a sign saying, "I tried." I tried so hard. So yeah, I was thinking alcoholic or drunk vagabond for a centaur would be a nice sort of indication of where you could go. I guess more on a more positive note, I think a centaur would make an excellent wilderness guide or a tracker for an adventuring party where you needed to get from one place to another, because they must travel just miles, kilometers, large distances across the wilderness, because that's their home. They're into open living.
Yeah, how do they interact with creatures like Wemmicks or and if you could have rangers who are trained by them rather than the elven tradition? It's the centaur tradition, so they've got a completely different set of skills. And also game trails and things like that they've established, or migrational patterns that they've established, herds which they claim as their own because they eat meat and grains and things as well. What sort of diet do they have? Look at them as a real living people.
And if you have like a place where you want to have tourists coming through, like a centaur tourist guide, they're the ones who take you on the tour.
Come and visit the authentic traditional centaur village.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can do it with a western town. I mean, is there a single western town that used to exist that isn't turned into a place that it's basically a tourist event now, isn't it? A tourist location. All the old
There's
western
a lot of places.
towns.
Yeah, a lot of western towns. There's a bunch that aren't, but that's pretty standard fare out west. Tourists like to have the cowboy experience and be out there, but not really, so anywhere you can make a buck.
Oh, okay.
You could have a procession of a centaur tribe who all show up to Waterdeep to return precious tribal objects which have been taken by archaeologists from them, and there's now a cultural exchange where they've acknowledged that theft was against their culture, and they're returning it as a sign of respect. So all of a sudden you've got a whole bunch of centaurs in your village or town that you weren't expecting.
That's cool.
How does that work out?
Yeah.
There's a lot of alcohol being consumed in that saloon. Yeah, you're gonna have.
They may push it. It's like, well, we're just here to you're the shoe's on the other foot now, and the centaurs can be a little bit offensive. And the authorities like, don't start any trouble with it.
Yeah.
So I'm very fond of the old westerns from America, and I couldn't help myself but think of the centaur bounty hunter in the Old West, right back to sort of Van Cleef and Eastwood, and not so much John Wayne. John Wayne's probably John Wayne centaur would really be more the constable or the sheriff or the ranch owner. So you could definitely go very Centaur Western, North American Old West.
There's only two ways this is gonna go, partner. You're gonna be walking home, or you're gonna be strapped to my back.
Nicely done. Yeah.
And then the last idea I have on my little list here is if you have an armed force, like an army, like Narnia, there was centaurs, right? But they make the perfect cavalry unit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a no-brainer. They're going to be perfect at doing exactly that. Because you literally have somebody who's horse and part humanoid who can fire a bow, doesn't need to worry about falling off the horse or learning how to stay on the horse without using a spear. It's not going to be a problem. It's all naturally sort of built together, so it works. It would be devastating. I would be terrified.
Picture them holding onto with their arms a full-on tower shield in front of them that's spiked, and they just charge at a front line.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a shield wall turned into a weapon. What do you do?
Yeah.
Run.
I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you run? Yeah.
Yeah.
Trenches.
run that, yeah.
Trenches
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what you do.
Yeah.
All right. So if there's no more ideas, I will shuffle us out of here onto the next topic. Looks like there isn't. So I'm
good.
going to say to you, comments. If you have any ideas about how you would go about using the Centaur, then by all means, use the comments section and the chat. Let us know. We would be interested. Anything goes. Anything goes. And if you haven't had a chance, go and watch the very short video that AJ Pickett has put out on the Centaur. That's only 44 minutes long. Okay. You will have short video. Okay. You've got time. Your life will be better for it.
Why aren't you making any more D&D monster videos, AJ? I ran out.
He's done all the mythology.
Yeah, they're gone. It's all right. There's always another one. So thank you very much for that one. Does anybody need to take a break? No, we're going to keep going
good.
then. Keep going.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink
Take
some
a
water.
swig. Yeah.
I'm trying not to drink too much water, but still enough so that my brain functions, but don't need to go to the toilet. It's always helpful.
Yep.
Wally, did you not know that going live and having me on your channel live was dangerous? Did you not realize this? You knew it was. Okay, all right. I'll stop being naughty.
No, you're fine.
No more.
Thank you for being very well behaved.
I thought
Yeah,
I was too.
I was thinking.
I was
Like,
pretty
wow,
You
good.
guys should see
who's
him
it-
before
who's
we
this
go
guy?
live. God.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's wearing Fred's hat, but is that Fred?
Yeah.
I
I'm
can
still
do
Meteors.
it.
swearing yet.
Meteor Swarm dealing with charging meteors. Charging anything. Meteor Swarm will deal with anything. Let's put it that way.
Unless they're level 20 characters and you're playing 5e.
They just raise the shield above them.
Dear. All right. So our next monster. How would you go about using a harpy in a fun and interesting way in a role-playing game, Catacombs, Tunnels and Trolls, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder? Now, when I ask this question, before I get AJ to answer this question, we've actually already talked about this particular topic in the past. We've actually talked about how you would go about using harpies. And me, Wally, Josiah, Dungeon Dad, and I believe it was Dungeon Class, and who else was there? There was 4 of us. There was 4 of us.
Yeah, it's fine.
We've already talked about this. So if you don't know what to do with your harpy, you need to go over to Dungeon Class. Not right now, but after this live stream. Stay here. Okay. You need to go and check out that video because it's very funny and I enjoyed watching it. I had forgotten we had even made it. I was looking for stuff on harpies, and then suddenly, oh, here's this video. And I'm like, oh, hang on, that's me. Oh, there's Mark.
This is what being old's like.
I know.
Just saying. Yeah.
Yes, not good. Okay, AJ, the harpy. Let it loose. Let it fly.
So harpies, I didn't actually look up a lot of the mythology of these things because they're so tropey. They're basically a cursed sort of female half bird. And it depends on which bit of them is bird and which bit of them is female, but they're always female bird combined. I don't think there's any examples of male harpies. So that's female presenting, you could say, but biologically, maybe not so much. Or perhaps they're hermaphrodites, or they're just, they divide by parthenogenesis, who knows? But, the idea of like stealing some harpy eggs or things like that hasn't really occurred to player characters in my games because they're nasty. And for me, they're always been like a random wilderness encounter where harpies attack. And it's like, oh, you're entering harpy territory, and you can tell because there's, it's noxious and it's a cursed place, and they're very, very evil sort of creatures. Vulture-y, seagulls, they hang out and they prey on the weak. So like the gulls that kill all the baby turtles that are emerging, that's harpy attitude for you. They're thieving, conniving, nasty creatures. So I've always played them as being wretched, cursed, and vicious and vindictive. And their intelligence is always highly predatory and nasty, like hags and things like that would deal with harpies and things. But generally, they always double cross you and stab you in the back.
Well, and that's the kind of monster you want. Is you want the one that's that can be the bad one,
The ones that it's okay to just hate.
Yeah. I mean, and that's part of the reason why a lot of monsters had alignment that was sort of evil, was so that you didn't feel bad when you butchered them and took their stuff. But we can do other things with things.
Yeah, one of the ways to avoid, say, if it's a cursed creature and you say, well, that was the curse of their ancestors, is say the curse made them immortal until they were killed. So they're the original people who were cursed in the first place, or they were cloned and turned into all of these things. And it's just like Manchun, one of these creatures, one of these mages, he cloned himself many times, and then he became obsessed with killing all of his clones. So the harpies could be all copies of the same individual who was cursed and turned to an entire species of monsters who all hate each other. So you could play it that way.
Yeah. Now, Mark, I remember your responses from the last video because I've watched it recently. So I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention to your response. All right.
Okay.
Go for it, mate. What do you got?
All right. So picture this. The group comes up on they're nearing a tavern, and they hear this just beautiful music coming out of the tavern. And in fact, they're going to have to do a few wisdom checks because it's just really starting to pull them toward this tavern. And they enter this tavern and they see this beautiful harpy, obviously half woman, half bird thing, but the bird, whichever they're partial to, whichever parts they're partial to per se, just look amazing. And the music is like nothing they've ever heard. And they just feel so compelled to start dropping coin into their loot case or whatever is laying there. And they just feel, compelled. And so we have as a bard harpy that has really adapted to society and used her gifts to lure people into the tavern, and is making bank. I mean, she's really doing really well as a performer. The tavern owner loves her because, man, it's bringing people in by the droves, and they're all under this bard's spell.
I was fully immersed there. I was fully immersed.
I was going with it. I think we had this discussion. We had this discussion about harpies being musicians quite a few times, and I do believe that I had mentioned, and we had discussed this quite a lot last time, nightclub singer. So the tavern, it's that, and I think we had even talked about what sort of music they would sing, and pop and rock was high on the list.
Yeah, definitely, rock star.
The rock star, yeah. And for those of you who don't like rock and you want the blues music, I think you had mentioned a harpy playing a harmonica.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you really, I would think you have to use that, the siren song kind of thing. That's just, you can't, almost like, it'd be really weird not to. But I mean, you could, but I just think that would be not to overshadow anyone else's ideas, but it just seems like that's one of the things that you would be really great to use. It could trap them in all different ways, but trapping them by music and making some coin as you go, that's not a bad way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dennis. Harpy, fire us up an idea.
Well, all the research I did pretty much showed that they were the same thing no matter where you looked at them. Sometimes they would do what Mark has done and sort of mix them with sirens, like this beautiful woman with feathers and lures people in, whether they're going to kill them afterwards. That's, depends on the individual, I guess. But one thing that the word harpy specifically kept bringing up was cruelty. Like these things are nasty. They delight in causing pain and suffering to other living beings. And one of my favorite kinds of games to run is horror. So these could be one of the best, road encounters. Like I feel like that's where they are perfectly. They would constantly be swooping down onto small groups or individuals on the roads and then flying away to their nest high up in the mountains where no one can get them. And if the adventurers take a job to go, freaking get rid of these harpies that keep, killing people on the road. People aren't using this anymore. They're not bringing their business over to our town anymore. They go up into this harpy's cave and you can see just the darkest things. You can see, bones, and not just human bones, but the bones of other small animals. You start digging through it, you find, if you want to go really dark, children's bones. Like these things have no moral compass. They have the opposite. They know what's cruel and they lean into it. It could be a truly terrifying encounter because most of what horror is what you see before the monster appears. So I think focusing on what's actually in the harpy's cave and how you get there could really put some fear into the players pretty easily.
Yeah, so you're actually suggesting leaning right into, because we're not the harpies. Correct me if I'm wrong. Harpies were used in Greek mythology by the gods to actually inflict pain. Here he's looking it up now.
Well,
he's going
so a common theme that's occurred a couple of times in the original Greek mythology, where the king, a blind king, was and a prophet. Who was famed for his prophecy. He was harassed by the harpies who were always befouling his food. So he was always starving because he'd try and get his food, and the harpies would crap all over it and stuff like that until they were driven off, But the interesting thing is that the harpies' origin in Greek mythology was not nasty. They were spirits of the air originally, and also there was just one, Podage, or his Zeus fathered the horses of Achilles, known as Belius and Xanthos, with that particular monster. And then they added more harpies later on, so that they became like sisters, or they became a race, or they became daughters who were like the problematic children, but they had good relatives as well who would come in and save them if their antics were resulting in the warriors going to kill them all. They were like, no, you can't kill them. They're our family, sort of thing. So they would come in and like the rainbow spirits would arrive and save the harpies. It's like, why? But it's interesting that because even up to Charlemagne, there was a story where the Sinapus, the blind king of Abyssinia, snatching and fouling his food so that he died of starvation if Astolfo had not arrived in time to drive them off and save his life. So it carries on. That same story is repeated over and over with different cultures.
So essentially, what that sort of suggests is that
birds stealing food.
Harpies didn't start off as being nasty, cruel creatures or beings. It was their offspring who were clearly the delinquents, and since they got up to so much naughty stuff, they're the only stories we ever hear. So the parents are like, oh God, not again. Oh, they're showing up in the newspaper again. Oh, what are they doing? Okay, all
and
right.
It sort of goes back to like if you think of the earliest mythology is all based around agrarian culture and things like that, birds showing up and eating the grain out of the ground before it's even grown would be seen as monstrous, nasty things. Why do the gods send birds to take our food? So these things have got origins in myth, in fact. So yeah.
Cool. Wally, are you ready for the harpy? I'm sure you are, because I remember what you said about the harpy last time. Bring it, baby, bring it.
Did I say something about the harpy? Was I in the video?
Oh, you were. You just don't remember.
It was amazing what you said.
It was.
I don't remember.
Just please be gentle, because I
Changed
almost
my
missed
life.
my pants last time. So
Changed my life.
I should have watched it. I had no idea that I was in that. I wasn't in that, was I? I don't know. I don't remember. But somebody said that Esper was in it. Was Esper in it?
I think he was.
Okay. And
No?
so no.
Fred says no.
Okay.
Oh no.
I don't either.
So many. I don't know.
But-
yeah.
But since Esper was mentioned, I will say that he's got a Kickstarter out there that has met all stretch goals. So if you haven't checked out Esper the Bard's Kickstarter, and it's a lot of fun with monsters, I would highly encourage you to do so. Speaking of Kickstarters, I also ran one, The Quintessential Guide to Monster Encounters, in which I will have a variant of a harpy in that book. I can't go into details. I made myself sign my own NDA. So, but what I do have for you is something different. This is probably not going to go over very well because I really didn't figure it out in my head, and I think Mark and Dennis both already said this. And if I was in the harpy video before, and if I said something funny, I apologize, because I don't remember. Otherwise, I would have brought that joke back, and I would have totally done it again. So this is what I'm going with now. You guys already took the Rockstar Harpy, so I'm just going to develop that a little bit further. And so there is going to be this harpy, and all she wants to do is sing. I mean, her name could be Harpney Houston, Harpia Carey, who knows, something like that, just a beautiful singer, and her talent is going to be recognized. And we're not going to discuss what the agent's real name is. We're just going to call him the Ticket Master, because the Ticket Master is able to promote these rock stars that can sing and stuff like that. So in my world, as crazy as my world is going to be, this Ticket Master is going to start off by putting out all of these different sending stones, and these sending stones are going to be sending bricks. We're going to make them sending bricks. So everybody's buying these sending bricks, and at the same time, every day there's like an hour-long show where they hear this beautiful singing voice, and they're able to listen to that and everything else. But what that is it's actually the harpy sending through their radios. But it's a harpy singing through there, and a lot of people are going to they're not going to be charmed. They're going to become infatuated, and they're going to become fans, and they're going to be like, oh, this is so cool. I need to see this real person in real life. And then we're going to use, I think it was Mark or Dennis's idea, where they're all going to come to this bar. We're going to, the Ticket Master is going to start working his stuff. He's going to start, getting all this gold, selling these tickets and things like that. But he's not going to put the harpy out there. He's going to have somebody else that goes out there and actually lip syncs, and the harpy will be behind the stage. And then that's as far as I got.
Ooh, bit of Millie
You
Vanilli
take it from
thing
there.
going on there.
Yeah.
You're not walking out of this house wearing that feathered miniskirt, young lady.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Maybe chat can finish the rest of the story, but I thought that'd be fun.
I like the idea, but I feel like you're not finished, Wally. So I'm going to remind you.
Harpy Farm.
I have a harpy farm.
You don't remember?
I don't.
You don't remember? My gosh, when you talked about it, we were sitting there and we were cracking up. You talked about
We're muses, Fred. We don't retain the inspiration. We just pass it out of ourselves. We channel it.
It's just like passing
many
urine,
ideas.
and yeah. So once it's gone, it's gone. I managed to get another one of those in there. So you had mentioned to us, what about having a harpy farm where they actually they farm the eggs from the harpies, and then you decided that they had to have a perch that was above you. So when anybody here was going in and looking after the farm, you remember this story now?
I bits of it, because it's part of stuff that I'm writing. I thought I just seen it all in a dream.
No, it was not a dream, man. You were talking about it on Mark's channel, man, and Gonzo's channel, and literally you was like, I'm going to have a whole lot of rails in this barn, and all these harpies sitting along there, and they're delivering the eggs they're shooting out eggs, and anybody trying to collect the eggs was terrified. You'd have to wear safety gear and stuff like that, because as soon as you walked in, they would just descend on you and then try to consume you or rip you to pieces. And like it's got to be the worst farm to work at. I can't think of a farm.
You're in the night markets of Hades, and you see an individual walking by, and he's got this giant drumstick, and he's like munch, 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 and also in the bucket is a giant arm. Wait a minute.
This is exactly why I can't drink anymore on these roundtable discussions, because I don't remember what I came up with.
Actually,
whatever you said is covered under our OGL, our channel's OGL.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
You're right though, Wally. You probably were drinking when we were doing
I
that.
probably was, and man, I need to go back to it because that's a great idea.
It's a great idea.
I need to put a poll up. Should I be drinking during these? Yes or no?
Harpy feathers as spell components, also a good reason to interact with harpies too.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like the Ticketmaster, but I like harpy eggs too. All right.
Well, I mean, I like the Ticketmaster too, but I felt like I had to remind you because
I appreciate that.
It was such
a harpy egg would be the perfect vessel to create a homunculus too. You do things to the thing, and then you get this.
I'm gonna go on mute now.
That's fine. You can go on mute. So I wanted to play off Mark's idea because when he talked about that, we talked a lot about the idea of having a diva in a nightclub or a tavern that was a harpy, and I said, when you have like this is where things get dangerous now, Wally. When you have like a nightclub and you have singers, what do you get with that? And that's drugs. So this is where you lure them in with the harpy singing that luring nice song, and then you offer up those purple magic mushrooms in the nightclub. Maybe a nice little shaped flower that you can eat. You don't necessarily have to smoke it. Just it looks like a little hors d'oeuvre for all you know. Little purple mushrooms, and that make you see nice colours and have a good time. Probably nice and cheap. Keep them at 100 gold pieces. A snack. Nobody's going to notice that. Bring in the money. Bring in the money with drugs. Okay, that was my idea. So now I don't know if Dungeon Dad is still here, and if Josiah is still here. I remember his idea, and I'm going to share it with you because it was funny, and it played off the fact that harpies should be musicians in your games almost all the time. And that is a death metal harpy rock band.
I remember that.
You remember that?
I do.
Yeah, and I remember Josiah mentioning that the best thing about this death metal harpy rock band is when they sing, they attract demons and devils to the location, so, causing even more strife than you could possibly imagine in that location. So it's not so much the harpy rock band, death metal rock band. It's the demons and devils that hang around them that are the real problem.
Yeah.
Sounds like they should
Harpy
get a ticket. They should get a Ticketmaster.
Yeah,
but
it's like a harpy Black Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of discussion on cuisine of very, very illicit cuisine in the chat right now.
Is there? All right, don't worry, chat. You'll get your chance to share all
actually.
that.
Somebody mentioned a harpy omelet and halfling bacon, and I'm like, what? But it's true. Halflings are commonly regarded to be delicious. So in a monstrous market,
Yeah,
I don't remember reading that in my book.
You're right. Which one is that one?
Is that one of your videos that we can watch?
I assure you, the halflings are delicious.
Oh.
Is that it? Now I got to go watch AJ's halfling video.
Yeah, right.
It's all I can do to stop biting my nails.
Well, I mean,
Or their nails.
Oh no. Oh gosh, I'm gonna be careful now. And the last idea, actually, Mark, I don't know if you remembered mentioning this, but you decided to have a mute harpy. Do you remember the mute harpy that did sign
No.
language? I'm sitting there. How is it you decided that to have a mute harpy and the only way they could communicate was sign language? I'm sitting there. I'm like, I wouldn't have come up with that, but it
That's
seems
pretty off the wall,
obvious at the time, I guess.
And I don't even drink, so I don't know where that one came from.
I think there is something there though, like a harpy that doesn't sing, but it's an enthralling dance instead.
Yeah.
Like a
Sign
feather
language.
display, like a peacock.
Yeah,
Hypnotic
Yeah,
feathers. Ooh,
yeah,
hypnotic
yeah.
feathers.
Ooh. Very
I'm gonna start writing some of this down.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We'll give
love
you
it.
time, Dennis.
Also,
you
I
keep
like the
writing.
idea of harpies being so filthy they've got some sort of a mange that they can pass on through their wretched feathers, similar to
Yeah.
the Vrock demons,
Yeah.
because they've got to have
Yeah,
some devils. They've got to have some sort of origin.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
So now you're going to take them to the vet. Oh, hang on. You wouldn't go to the vet. You'd go to the.
They would never touch water. Like getting
Yeah.
bathed or rained on would be anathema to
Yeah.
filthy harpies.
They'd
That
have to
makes
lick
sense.
themselves with mange.
Like you got to wait for the rainstorm for the harpies to go away, otherwise you're trapped in the cave that you hide out in. And it's a good thing. Like I always use boule and harpies and things like that force people to go into shelter to uncover the dungeon that they're supposed to be encountering. It's like,
Nice.
you don't go in there, I'll make you go in there.
Normally rain is frowned upon during travel and unpleasant, but in some roads it's the only way to travel.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's so cool.
Is
Yeah,
there
the pass is impassable unless the river is raised enough so you can get over the rapids.
Yeah.
This is the craziest fun with monsters I think I've ever been a part of.
That's not true.
How did
That's
we?
not true.
How
that's
did
not
we
true.
get here?
How did we get here, dude?
Never
it's
mind.
only
Never
a
mind.
matter-
It's those mushrooms that Fred was talking about.
You forget the Kraken, dude. You remember you forgot the Kraken, mate. If we had been talking about the Kraken, it was much worse. I
Now
can
the
tell you right
Kraken,
now.
I remember that one. I remember that one.
All right, but we won't go there
Another
today.
another day, another time.
Another day, another time. Is there anything in the chat that
You don't know.
she-
There's absolutely nothing in chat. We're good.
No, all right, so nothing sanitary. So stay away. Okay,
We're
It's
good.
a signal, Fred. Not a
Moving
chance.
on.
It's worse than what Fred could possibly say. Okay, good to know. Awesome. So feel free to. Sorry. Feel free to share your ideas about the harpy, not really, in the comments section in the chat, not really, about how you would use the harpy in your role-playing game or adventure, not really, and thank you very much.
2 words: Harpy Karen.
Yeah, that's Issa said that earlier, and that frightens me. Yes,
I don't know. I'm still traumatized by Harpy Turducken.
Yeah. That's,
I thought we weren't looking at chat.
that went south real quick.
If I could super chat right now, I would though.
Yeah. That's glorious.
It's been awesome.
Glorious. Keep it coming, chat.
Yeah. You guys are great. Thanks everybody for watching. This is awesome.
Yeah. Wally's sweating a lot more right now.
Yeah.
For good reason. Are we ready to do the last monster? Because
I don't know.
I mean, either that we could keep talking about harpies and socks or something like that.
I think we can move on because I do not want to know why harpies and socks go together. Let's go on to the next one.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Cool. We'll do that. Okay. All right. Contend with this. I'm so sorry, Wally. Now you're thinking I should unlist my live streams now. I had them, and then I brought them back, and now I should definitely hide them again. But somebody out there is going to make Wally feel better about this whole process that he's conducting. Like, give him a super chat or a super sticker, just so it makes him feel better that he's actually leaving it up public, because he is terrified. I trust him.
I need a beer is what it is. That's what I'm missing. That's exactly what I'm missing.
Yeah. Well, we always preferred you with alcohol anyway, dude.
Yeah, I did too.
Okay. Anyway, moving on. Last question. And how would you go? Sorry. How would you go about using a Sphinx? That's right, a Sphinx in a fun and interesting way in a role-playing game, Tunnels and Trolls, Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons, Star Wars? No, maybe not.
Shoots and ladders.
Shoots and ladders. Shoots and ladders. Yeah. How would you?
Monsters and Men. Yeah.
Monsters and Men. Oh, where did you get that one? I got to write that one down. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Okay, AJ, the Sphinx.
Classic tropey encounter where you're faced with an intelligent and terrifying foe who makes you answer questions in order to get through. So this is the Riddle Master. This is the guardian of a sacred site, and it's been used a lot, and with good reasons. Sometimes cliches are there for a reason because they work in Dungeons and Dragons role-playing games. They really do, and it gives you a great opportunity to present when the players are encountering a Sphinx, they know they're in for a puzzle. So it's like they're okay with that because they know what the Sphinx is about. They know what to expect. They know that something bad is going to happen if they answer wrong, and they may just be able to be clever enough to get past this without combat and get rewarded with experience points, and perhaps even come up with an ally, particularly if they figure out how to free a Sphinx who's cursed to stay at a location and ask the questions and things like that. Also, there's different types of sphinxes. So what we mostly think of as the sphinx is the gyno sphinx. So that's the one that's presenting as a female with a lion body and wings and things. And in traditional Dungeons and Dragons mythology, it's a little bit problematic in how the other breeds are all males who are all trying to breed with the gyno sphinx particularly, and she doesn't want to breed with any of the monstrous looking ones. So it's a little bit consent is a major issue with sphinxes and their ecology, which is something I cover in a rather lengthy video that I made about them a while ago. So if that's something that you want to address in your games, you have that opportunity, but otherwise they are a very good puzzle encounter.
Yeah, absolutely. It's perfect for a channel like Wally's because it is very much a puzzle thing. And yes, I do remember that that video, Wally, AJ, because I watched it recently. And yeah, it's I don't know. I always thought it was more interesting just to have one type of Sphinx, but then when you bring in multiple types, and I think Dungeons and Dragons sort of has. I mean, there's a couple, but apparently there can be a lot more, and it's around just sort of crossbreeding between different creatures and gods and deities and primordials and titans and apparently it can happen. And there was some strange stuff I found on the internet about the possibility of it actually being a reality, like the combination of all sorts of different creatures and crossbreeding. But we won't go there because it's not my time. Instead, Mark, the Sphinx. What can you do with a Sphinx?
Yeah, so picture the Sphinx named Ticarus, Ticarus, and he is from eons of people coming to him, but very, very few and far between. He's gathered a wealth of knowledge because lived so long. You'll have eons and eons, but at the same time is starved for human attention. It actually comes on really strong. He is, in fact, kind of annoying. Wants to follow you around and tell you useless knowledge things. Kind of like if you've seen the show Cheers, Cliff Clavin was full of useless knowledge. So he's coming at you saying, I don't know if you know or not, but the heir to the Russian Tsar dynasty has an extra tooth, and just these random bits of information that are just completely useless. And eventually the people are like, could you just go away? And like, hey, did you know that there's a big giant crocodile underwater deep? His name is Fred. And just random information. And they're just like, would you please just go away? So the travelers come thinking they're going to get some great knowledge. And instead, they get a lot of useless information, and they just want the person to go away. So I think this would be an interesting talk about flipping the script a little bit. They're hoping to get some great or a riddle, and I get something out of it. And no, they just get useless knowledge. So I love it.
So I just feel right now that I walk into a tavern in my role-playing game, and there's a Sphinx doing exactly what you describe. It works, you know.
Yeah.
You can even have the sort of intro to the Cheers series as a sort of a lead up to
right.
where everybody finds a friend.
Yeah, everybody knows their name. Taurus. Yeah.
Dennis, the Sphinx. What can you do with a Sphinx?
Before I get into my ideas, I just want to say, Mark, that voice for a Sphinx was brilliant. I love that.
You
and I'm
like
going
that,
to
eh?
attempt to mimic it. Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
or he, I have some interesting knowledge. I don't know. I went like
Yeah,
Kermit there, but
Right. Yeah. Please.
so I had two ideas that I could not decide between. The first is one that I actually used in my world, and you can see this in a charity stream, a couple charity streams I ran a while ago on a different YouTube channel called Constructed Chaos. And it is a Sphinx who is started their own society. Their name is Mickey. It's short for something impossibly long and unpronounceable. But so the society that they built up, called the Philosopher's Tower, is just calls them Mickey. And Mickey's favorite thing to do is drink and talk about things that like big idea concepts. So Mickey founded the Philosopher's Tower and gathered, like, because Mickey's a Sphinx, they were able to, you know, fly around, spread the word. You know, you want to come see a Sphinx, you can actually like hang out with them. It's really cool. So this town of experts in brewing and experts in philosophy get together, and every night they just like sit around these huge long tables and talk about, you know, what is truth, what is knowledge. And they drink excellent alcohol the entire time. That's the one I used. I sent a party through like a festival that town was throwing on, and it was a ton of fun. It was just great festival setting.
That's great.
Nice. I like it. There's one thing about the concept of doing these where you get different people's perspective about how they would do something that really makes a big difference for me. And it blows out the idea that the lore and the way that you use a creature, a monster, a beast, whether it's mythical or for an IP, is limited to whatever was put on a page or whatever you found on the internet, which is like the best part of this, really, if you ask me. Wally, it's a Sphinx. I'm expected you to puzzle us a Sphinx. Is that where are we getting a puzzle with a Sphinx today, or no puzzle with a Sphinx today?
Oops.
Okay, take us down the garden path. I mean, either that, give us something clean, or take us down the garden path. You pick one, man. You do what you need to do. It's your channel. I'm just the one.
Yeah, you know, when we were picking these monsters, I was like, Sphinx. I was like, that's cool. That's a good one. I'm sure I can come up with something for that in a month's time. And I put a poll out on my channel today too. I was like, which of these 4 monsters are you super excited about us, you know, having fun in interesting ways? And the Sphinx was the top one. And Issa there in the chat says, favorite monster. I think the Sphinx is a Wally spirit monster with riddles, puzzles, and games. And I'm just going to disappoint everybody because I've only used the Sphinx once. And I don't have any cool puzzles or riddles to share with you. But what I do have is something that's just going to be probably just right up my... Yeah, I don't know. So here we go. So 2 things. I have used the Sphinx once, and I am going to use it again. And it will involve a puzzle or riddle. But it won't be one that I can share with you at this time. You can use this with any of them, but the characters are going to either solve or not solve the puzzle, answer or not answer the riddle, and they're going to come out through this portal on top of a cliff, and they need to get down to the city below. And the Sphinx is going to give them a ride. And depending on what their answer is how far to that city the Sphinx gives them a ride. Because if they get it wrong, Sphinx ain't gonna tell him. Just like, okay, that's great, and he'll give him a ride, and it's gonna drop him about halfway there. So that's when I did run that, they got it right. So they got a full ride to the city. Otherwise, nobody took feather falling, which was probably wouldn't have helped anyway. But what I really wanted to,
ties in really well with something. I'll get to it.
But what I really wanted to do is exactly what F. Huber said in the chat, and that's using dad jokes. So instead of riddles or puzzles, a Sphinx that tells dad jokes. Now that's fun with monsters. And I just so happen to have some that I can share with you that are D&D related.
Man.
So
Man.
here we go. And I used these in a recent one shot, and they're a lot of fun. So here's some dad jokes. Everybody bookmark this, get your pen and paper out, whatever you want. This Sphinx is going to tell dad jokes instead of riddles. So the first one is, what do you get when you mix a rabbit with a goblin? A hop. A rabbit with a goblin. You get a hop goblin.
Hobgoblin.
Hobgoblin.
Oh, that's a bad joke. Keep going.
Okay.
All right. That's definitely
Why do bard musicians make great scavengers? Because they're always looting.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right.
They have to
going,
get
man.
better, right? They have
you
to
might
get
as well
better.
not. Don't show me.
No, I gotta do at least 3. It was
It's like psychic damage.
No, you got a whole page there, man. I mean, you've got 16 people watching you right now. You can get that number down to 5.
it went down to 12 already. All right, so I only have one more with the star by it. So the last one with the star by it. What do you call it when a warlock uses their powers to gain the upper hand?
Oh, I don't want. I don't even want to think about it.
Hexploitation.
Oh my god!
So there you go, folks.
Wow.
This is the worst. This is the worst fun with Monster 100.
I was a part of that one shot that you ran with this in it, wasn't I?
Yes, you were.
So I didn't even remember any of these. I just heard the joke and I'm like, oh no, this one is bad. I remember hating and loving this. Oh no, same with this one. But I don't remember the answer.
but when that's right, you were in the one shot. But when we did it, it was in a fun, charismatic voice that I provided for you for playing in my game. That's all I have, Fred. And chat. I'm sorry.
You're very sorry.
So
I know.
I'm sorry.
That gives me an idea of a Sphinx who's not really good at what he does. So like he's just starting out. You know, we see Sphinx is really good at riddles. They give some really real think. You know, but instead the riddles it gives out just make no sense whatsoever. Almost like a little kid telling a joke. It just doesn't make sense. It's like what's that's not even, what are you talking about? So, and they're like, oh, you're wrong. You know, like that's not even right. You know, so that would be an interesting take on a Sphinx. We always see the end product.
That's what I wrote down in here. I said, a Sphinx that tells riddles and doesn't know the answer to the riddles.
Yeah.
I asked you guys. Come on, you tell me.
I've got to break in, guys. I've got to break in. So that actually ties in with Greek mythology because the Sphinx didn't come up with the riddle. The Muses did, and they gave the Sphinx the riddle to ask. And when it got it, when the eventually gets it right, the Sphinx dies. Now the story goes that the Sphinx either threw herself off a cliff because it was answered correctly, or Oedipus basically drove her off a cliff at the point of a sword. But the origin of the Sphinx is kind of like she's the avenging angel monster that is sent by the gods to kill whoever has offended them. So she's born of a serpent, a primeval serpent, and the Sphinx traditionally had a serpent tail. So that idea of getting a lift down the cliff to the town below, the Sphinx's serpent tail, even if she's agreed to it, is gonna stab them in the back. It's gonna.
Oh, that's awesome! I'm
sorry.
That.
You know, that's my nature. I'm an avenging angel. So if you deal with me, even if you've gotten it right, I'm still going to kill you. And also the idea that the Sphinx is the female version and the Manticore is the male version. That's another idea I love dealing with. It's just like, oh, you can deal with me, but when my husband gets home, you're in big trouble.
So, Wally, your idea, would you believe it, was actually number 2 on my list. That was literally a Sphinx that told knock jokes and bad dad jokes. Yeah. So it's apparently it feels like it's doing the rounds.
Do you want me to do
Two
some more?
people on the panel out of 5 actually.
Classic example of Hobbit, Bilbo and Gollum riddling each other.
So I have a question for people here. Since we're doing Sphinx and we've got to have a riddle at some point, I have a riddle for you. Now, there is a really famous riddle that the Sphinx presents. Now, I'm sure a few of you probably remember this, right? Yeah, you do. So if you're a game master and you're dealing with players who are kind of a bit on the new side and they're not sort of familiar with riddles and the mythology of the Sphinx, this is the riddle you want. What creature walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? So what is the answer? I'm sure somebody in the panel here knows.
Man.
If you want to tell them?
All at
Man,
once.
I've got no
1,
idea.
2.
Yeah, so it's man because they start out as a baby and they're on 4 legs crawling. And then they later in life, they're able to walk. And so they walk most of their life. And as they get to the twilight years, they have to have like a cane or something to assist them as they walk. So that's why it has 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Man.
Wow.
Yep. And I suppose man or human would probably be more than acceptable for if you're playing a modern game and you don't want to be okay, or even woman, because like it's the same sort of thing, right?
Yeah, human. Yeah.
3 answers potentially there. So
Yeah,
there you go.
I like
Here's your
that.
riddle, people.
I do have to admit I am terrible at riddles. Riddles, like puzzles I can do and traps I can do, but riddles I'm just not good at them at all.
So you don't know Sphinx.
I wonder if
you don't know
ChatGPT does
riddles.
I don't know. There is one that I've used before. This isn't going to be funny or anything. So if you're expecting that from me, I'm going to take a serious moment. I've used this one before just because it's so easy. So if your group doesn't like riddles and you want to use a Sphinx with a riddle, this one every time I've run it, it's been super easy. I can touch Earth and also the sky, but if I touch you, you'll probably die. Oh man.
ChatGPT just gave me a riddle. It said, I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind. What am I?
I don't know that either.
Do you know the problem with riddles is they're almost by their very nature unanswerable. I mean that they're so difficult to be able to pull apart, and unless you know the riddle already, which is like part and parcel.
Well, that was the wind chime.
Oh, okay. I would never have got it. But then
I wouldn't
again,
either.
I think I've only figured out one of Wally's puzzles in all the time I've been watching his channel. So it's not going to be. I'm not going to be answering anything anytime soon.
With riddles,
Wally's puzzles are for my players, not for me.
Yeah.
With riddles, quite often I think the best thing to do is tie it in with something that the characters have got on them, or is related to the characters, or related to something the characters just dealt with. So they've got that home field advantage of like, oh, if they were paying attention to the game, you reward them. If they're paying attention to the world building, you reward them. If they've done their research and spent time in character investigating something, or getting, consulting oracles or something like that, you reward them by answering the Sphinx's riddle. So it's just like, unless they did that, they're going to get penalized. So they know that something's coming along, and preparing for the adventure is what I reward the players for.
And that's exactly what I did with my Sphinx. Is that riddle that I gave you guys is the one that I used, and they got it right. So the Sphinx flew them all the way to the city instead of dropping them from the sky, which was their reward. F. Huber in the chat, congratulations, got the answers to the one that I read, and the one that I read was from the Jeff Ashworth's book, Puzzles, Riddles, and Predicaments.
Oh, okay. That's the new book that I've been waiting for a review from you on.
Yeah, somebody should do. Oh, that's me.
Oh, it's you. Oh, okay. All right.
I put it on my calendar.
Yeah, but I mean, there's been things have happened. Like there's been a lot to deal with. So I was also looking back to like it's kind of obvious that you're going to use like a Sphinx to protect like a treasure hoard. particularly if the treasure hoard is of the gods, where there's something, really powerful there. And the interesting thing, and I think I got this off, is it Mr. Rex, when I was watching one of his videos, and that is that when you can't fight the Sphinx to get the treasure that it's protecting, because if you do so, it simply ceases to exist, or it gets transported to another plane of existence or another dimension. So the only way to actually get the treasure from a hoard protected by a Sphinx that belongs to the gods is to actually correctly answer the riddle. And that's the big task. Otherwise, you can't just go murder hobo. It's got so many hit points or health points or wounds or life points, and just butcher the thing and say, we got it. We're going to get its stuff now. Doesn't work that way. Sorry, you've got to do it the hard way. There is no shortcut for that, baby.
Sneak up to the where the Sphinx is located, locate the bones of somebody that they've killed, speak with dead, find out what the answer is.
Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I like that a lot. Yeah.
You're welcome.
My players aren't watching
great.
this.
And for those of you who think that AJ will never provide players with solutions, you are wrong, because he just did. What about a Sphinx that is a king or a queen of a kingdom? Because there's a degree of the simple fact they live a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they will actually accumulate a lot of information, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of power. Like a Sphinx is incredibly powerful, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So they could easily be the ruler of a kingdom, and you're going to bring them tribute, and as long as you do so, life will be good. And if it's not, who knows what could possibly happen to you. Yeah.
Perfect example would be they're friends with a gold dragon.
Yeah.
One of the projects I'm working on right now is a podcast, and in the first couple episodes, they meet the headmaster of a bard college that is a Sphinx.
That's a good one.
So your idea there, I was actually going to mention it, because you can use your Sphinx as like sort of like a historian or a librarian for an ancient library or a museum or something like that, like a caretaker, I guess. Is it?
Yeah, like this vast repository of knowledge that like lives there. Like it reminds me of Wan Shi Tong from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Just this ancient owl that takes care of this buried, ruined library.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, AJ, but I'm pretty sure the Sphinx is able to control time and space, right? There's a lot of things that it doesn't use those abilities that often, but apparently time and space is something that they can affect. So I was actually thinking, let's take the Sphinx and Doctor Who. You could have a Sphinx who's like a Time Lord, travels in time to stop those annoying individuals who insist on fiddling around with the timeline and the order of events and causing trouble. It's essentially, I guess, like maybe time police Sphinxes or Time Lords who, make sure that the order and the nature of time is not interfered with so much that it all comes crumbling down.
Yep, you can have things like a time traveler who, one of the classics that I've used was the Green Slard, who was a time traveler, by the way, and they make perfect Doctor Who analogs if you ever really look into it. The Sphinx shows up and delays the party for no reason whatsoever. This powerful creature turns up and just stops them from doing something and then disappears, and they carry on, and they're like, what was that about? Just mysterious. No idea what's going on. And then later on, they come across a Sphinx who's got her paw trapped in a bear trap or something like that, and she can't get out. And it's just like the tide's coming in, she's about to drown, and unless she had delayed them in the past, they wouldn't have shown up in time at the exact right time to save her in the present. And then it's just like, I must remember to go back and make sure that this happens. It's like, there's fourth dimensional beings operating in this place, and yeah, that sort of idea that time travel is possible as a precursor to some time travel they may have to do. So you've given them an example of how it works in your campaign.
That's exactly how it happened in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Trash can. Remember the trash can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I use prophecy in the game as well. I give them key visual elements that I then insert into the scene wherever they are in the story. It doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about what's going to happen in the adventure. I just need to worry about, okay, when I want them to pay attention, I put the thing that I gave them in the prophecy earlier right there. Okay, oh, there's the red flag. Okay, danger is about to happen. So it gives them that spider sense without having to know what's going to happen in advance in the game.
So the ability for a Sphinx to affect time and to move through time is interesting, but then it's not just necessarily the environment, because apparently a Sphinx can affect the time of a creature. So that means that they could make you older or younger potentially. And so I was thinking it would be fun if you... Yes. I'm going down this track, baby. And babies are coming. So I was thinking it would be fun if you had like a hero who was worthy, who'd completed like a task. Maybe you've decided that your Sphinx is like the quest giver for your adventure or whatever, and they complete the task, and the reward is to make them younger. And so you could have a little bit of fun with that. When you make them younger, they might wind up as like little babies. By accident, you could have like a little scene, where like, oh, bit too far, and we might have to pull it back a bit, rope it back in a bit there, because that's not what we were after. You don't want them in diapers. You want them, they just want to be about 20-ish or something.
This
like
dungeon is full of goblins and kobolds. Oh, that should be no problem. Yeah, but the Sphinx turns you into a 5-year-old when you get you have to fight your way through on their terms.
Yeah.
That actually is pretty good.
That would actually be fun to do, like as a one shot, where your standard array can be no higher than like a 10, and you all start off with like very old characters. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about this when I was listening to Mr. Rex, and he was talking about the fact that you could actually change somebody's age. Sphinx could change somebody's age, and it brought me back to an image of a couple of different things. One, I was thinking of. Does anybody remember Mortal Kombat and the babalities? You had the fatalities, but there's the babalities. You could turn your opponent into a baby, like make them really, really young. And that sort of popped into my mind. But the other one that popped into my mind, and I don't know if anybody remembers this from, is it Avengers Endgame? When they're trying to get Scott, who's playing Ant-Man, and he's trying to travel back in time, and unfortunately... Bruce Banner, he's just not quite onto the time travel thing, and he winds up making Ant-Man a little bit too young. So I can see a lot of fun with that. You don't have to make that permanent.
Just pure slapstick.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And the last one here that I have, and there are a lot of things under the Sphinx that I had marked down, is because they also can not just travel through time, but also space. They might well be like the most obvious choice as a guardian for a really important teleportation circle or teleportation portal of some kind, and use them as a protection from moving through a gate that you're not supposed to travel through.
Yeah, they're a classic extraplanar race, like the Shadoo and the Sphinx and the Lamias and those sort of creatures ruled from the ethereal plane. That was one of the things I was kind of annoyed with, that they ignored a lot of the pre-existing lore in regards to the ethereal plane with some of the products from a company which we will not mention. That if you look up the guides to the planes and things like that, they're a major. You will encounter them if you go into the ethereal plane, and sometimes they will save you from spirits and things like that, which are trying to take your soul away, and things like that. They'll protect you like angels, or more like an elder species who are like, you're not ready to be transdimensional species yet. There's dangers here which you're not prepared for, and I'm too busy to teach you, but I'll save you on this one particular instance, but I'm going to paralyze you in one leg just to slow you down a little bit.
Or make you a baby who's about 6 months old.
Or just kick you straight out of the ethereal plane, right back out again.
Yeah.
For your own good. Banished.
Oh dear. Was there anything anybody else wanted to add? Because I feel like we have done the Sphinx to death today.
I actually did have one more somehow.
And the Sphinx? Let me change the picture back. Hold on. Okay, go ahead. Now it's official.
The Sphinx one of the problems I had in my early game running days was that I was too nice to the players. I couldn't bring myself to actually do damage to them and bring them close to, like, get them, like, threaten them with actual character death. My fix for it, and has worked several times since I did this, was to do a TPK on purpose, to plan for none of the player characters to survive, and have some sort of ex machina come in and save them when there's like literally one person left standing, so they're the only person to witness it. The Sphinx would be a perfect character for that, for something to come in, swoop in, and just annihilate whatever had killed them. And they would have the power and strange morals or reasoning for going in and saving them and saying, okay, and especially with this time stuff, like, okay, now that I've saved you, I can just disappear and you'll probably see me again. But if you know, I can't tell you that now, because if you know, then it won't work, and just disappear.
It's a brilliant idea. Like, I like that idea that arcane magic is a formulaic sort of thing that has a physical sort of result because you followed the rules. But divine magic doesn't have to work like that. So you may divine smite and expect a bolt of light to come from the sky, but it ain't. This time it's a gardener, or this time it's a sphinx, or, It's like, I didn't have that available, so here's the next best.
Well, in that scenario, what if the Sphinx wasn't the one that, well, still being the one that saved them, but what if they're also the one that set everything up? Because that kind of reminds me of, if not, hopefully not putting any spoilers out there for those that are watching the animated Vox Machina season 2, but they do have a couple of Sphinxes in there, and there are some challenges that the Sphinx is set up, and that's what that reminded me of a little bit is that episode.
Got to watch that series.
It's really good.
They did a good job. Except
also,
that part,
the
Beholder,
Sphinxes are really good in the second one.
The Beholder, they changed it to avoid things.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. That's such a weird creature they fight. Yeah.
I would have just left it out.
Right.
Or had something like a gazer or something.
Yeah,
the idea of Leonals or other, or Tabaxi or something like that, worshipping Sphinx could be a thing too.
Mm.
Ooh,
like it.
Nice feline thing. I love it. He's got some good ones.
I'm surprised nobody mentioned the Sphinx having an infatuation for noses, or wanting to steal people's noses over like the
oh no, dad jokes.
just a collection of giant statuary noses. Just a collection of them.
Like the Sphinx and the statue and the.
I got it. But there's a dad theme going on here.
There is, and you got us all to laugh, so it worked. You know what I love about what Dennis said is he describes set up a TPK, and and I was thinking, that's why Dennis, I'm the guy who explains how to be a better dungeon master or game master from my own mistakes. And I was thinking back to Dennis, I was thinking, I'm not giving you a hard time, dude, because there's almost everybody at some point probably has done something in a game and like, oh, that was a mistake. I remember throwing a young adult dragon at a group of level 1 characters, and I got it out of my system. I've even thrown a Tarrasque at level 1 characters just to see what would happen, and then you feel really bad at the end, and you're thinking, God, what was I doing? What an ass I was. And okay, so
We need like a red alert graphic that pops up when we have some sort of advice like that. Be warned, we're passing into not player agency territory.
Yes. So advice definitely don't throw young adult dragons and Tarrasques at level.
If you're
1
playing
characters.
Dungeon Crawl Classics or something like that, and they've got 16 characters each, sure, you can winnow down a few. And I encourage people to play with more than one character, because that's definitely a traditional play style for role playing games that has fallen by the wayside too much.
Yeah, you got to have a pretty tough spine. I found my guilt meter
backstory.
going up a bit.
What backstory?
The backstory, you write your backstory when you manage to get to level 3 or 4. If you survive that long, you can write a backstory.
Yeah.
Your backstory
Yeah,
is
or-
what happened from level 1 to 4.
This
Or
first
even give
adventure is character creation.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you get to level 40, you can put a name down. It actually has a name.
There's a good question in chat. Are Sphinx Greek or Egyptian?
Mm,
Everybody
Well-
looks at AJ.
well,
I said
Yes.
yes.
What?
I'm not entirely sure. They're obviously were quite prominent in the Bronze Age and pre-Neolithic age. So that was when the Nile was closer to where the pyramids and stuff were located. And that's built around a natural rock formation in the first place. So they enhanced the rock formation that was already there. So jury's out. I don't
That's
know.
interesting.
Yeah,
But
when I was-
definitely older than the Greek civilization, that's for sure.
It was also very difficult to figure out where it originally came from, the Sphinx, because it's very muddied. There's even suggestions that I could see that it was before the Egyptian civilization.
The
or
Bronze
even
Age
the
was a
Greek.
lot more cosmopolitan than people think. Like it was like there was an example of a king who got some sandals from another country. He got them; they were the wrong size. He sent them back. So commerce and trade across international waters and stuff was common. Cuneiform letters between, oh, thank you very much for the bronzed horse that you sent me. My father, the king, has, so they've got all this stuff. A lot of that writing on clay bricks, clay tablet is very well preserved. So we have a very good idea of what went on. And then there was just, their civilization fell apart suddenly, and they went into their own dark age. But the 2,000 years of Bronze Age was a lot like our world today in many ways.
Well, I think we've done the Sphinx. So unless anybody else has anything else they want to add, I'm going to just let people know. Like, let us know what your ideas are around how you would go about using the Sphinx in your game. You can change it up. You can do what you want with it. Let us know in the comment section for sure. And thank you. And Wally, going to hand it to you.
Fantastic. Yeah. I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. This is the Game Master Roundtable. Thanks for holding my book up, Fred. I appreciate that. I don't even have mine around here. What I do have here, as Fred did a live stream earlier on this book. So for those of you that watched Fred's live stream earlier, I just want to show the condition. This one's seen some play. When you can do this to your book, when you can shift the wait a minute, there you go. Shift the front and back cover.
That's a good sign, yeah.
Yeah. Great book. Yes, but number one, thanks to everyone that participates tonight. We've got Fred from How to RPG. We've got Dennis, the OKSGM, Mark from Dungeon Class, and of course, AJ Pickett. And thanks to everyone in the chat. You guys were awesome. It was great to see so much interactivity.
Excellent.
Appreciate you having here. Let us know. Hit a like button on this video if you like this stuff. Let us know if you want to see, keep seeing these and all that. Everything else. Anybody else anything to say before I scoot us out of here?
Yeah, do actually. Thank you, Norok, for sending Wally a $3 super sticker.
Yes, thank you very much, Nora. I appreciate that. Absolutely.
That was awesome.
That's probably equivalent to what, somewhere in the vicinity of 3,000 views now, since since the AdSense revenue rates are pretty bad. It dropped quite a bit recently, so it makes a bit of a difference.
Much appreciated.
True.
Thank you very much for that. All right. Cool. All right. I will get us out of here. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you in a couple weeks, March 9th, I think. So
no, I believe isn't it March 23rd? 23rd?
Today's February 23rd. We have one March 9th too, right?
Oh, then March 9th. That's right. Yeah, March 9th. Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
We'll
March
have March 9th.
23rd.
What month is it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know which year it is either.
And with that, I'm going to put another screen up. It's going to say going on break, but we're not really going on break. We're actually leaving, but that's all I have is going on break.
2 weeks.
We're going on a 2-week break. So I'm going to switch to the going on the break. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. On to the next.
Bye.